हेलो फ्रेंड्स, केजी क्लासेस में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम आपको जॉन मिल्टन के लॉन्ग आंसर के बारे में बताएंगे। क्वेश्चन फर्स्ट, पैराडाइज लॉस्ट इज ए वेरी रिवलेशन हाउएवर सबलाइम ऑफ मिल्टन्स इंटेंस ईगोटिज्म कमेंट्स और कमेंट अपॉन Coleridge remarked that Milton himself is in every line of Paradise Lost, or comment on the view that Paradise Lost Milton has eternalized his own inner strife, or write a note on the autobiographical note in Milton's poetry with particular reference to Paradise Lost book first। हेडिंग है, आंसर है ब्यूटी ऑफ मिल्टन्स पोइट्री। हेडिंग है द चार्म ऑफ मिल्टन्स पोइट्री लाइज इन द चार्म ऑफ मिल्टन्स करेक्टर एंड पर्सनालिटी। द ब्यूटी ऑफ मिल्टन्स पोइट्री इज दैट ही रिवील्स हिमसेल्फ कॉन्शियसली और अनकॉन्शियसली इन ऑलमोस्ट एवरी लाइन ही रोट। हिज पोइट्री is the expression of his thoughts or religion, theology, puritanism, republicanism and liberty. Milton's poetry is thus the poet's emotional and spiritual autobiography. Heading other works of Milton's, with the exception of his two idyls, El Allegro and Second Penseroso, in which no fact from the poet's life is traceable, almost all his works offer a glimpse of one aspect of his life or the other. In Thomas Milton's The Lady of Christ is in the leading role for the chastity praised in the poem is poet's own. In Samson Agonistes, the plight of Samson is Milton's own plight. Besides being blind, both Milton and Samson have an emotional identity. About the lines of Lycidas, Logos remarks, it is not King Edward, but Milton who should be sought in them. All Milton's sonnets are autobiographical. Marx Pattison remarks, the effectiveness of autobiographical Marx Pattison's remarks, the effectiveness of Milton's sonnet is chiefly due to the real nature of the character, person or incident of which each is the delineation. Each person's thing or fact is a moment in Milton's life, one by which he was steered, sometimes in the soul's depth, sometimes on the surface of feeling, but always truly moved. Next heading है Milton the Paradise Lost. But Paradise Lost reveals Milton's life in almost all its important phases. There are throughout the poem passages that stand out above the rest, not because they particularly add the story, but because they form part of the spiritual autobiography of the poet. Milton's love of liberty and republicanism find full expression in Paradise Lost. In the civil war between the Parliament and King Charles I, Milton was a force to be reckoned with. On the side of the Parliament, King Charles symbolized for him tyranny, autocracy, injustice and oppression. He was the enemy of human liberty, equality, fraternity and natural laws of justice. The Parliament stood as the advocate and defender of human right and liberty. Therefore, Milton preached disaffection to the king and advocated and supported the cause of the rebels against the king. In Saturn's revolt against God, he perceived an individual's revolt against all an all-powerful autocrat and tyrant. Unwillingly, he was driven to sympathize with Saturn in his rebellion against God. Therefore, the portrait of Saturn is enlivened by the poet's own personal feelings and sympathy. Like Saturn, Milton himself had been a rebel, not indeed against God, but against the crowned king of this earth. It is Milton's republicanism that speaks in the republicanism of Saturn. In Saturn's speeches, Milton's love of liberty speaks. His imagination built up this rebel champion of liberty into a stalwart hero. What though the field be lost, all is not lost. The unconquerable will and study of revenge, immortal hate, and courage never to submit or yield. All the following sentiments expressed by Saturn are Milton's own sentiments. First, fallen cherub, to be weak is miserable, doing or suffering. Second, the mind in its own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell a hell of heaven. Third, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Fourth, awake, arise, or be forever fallen. Heading: autobiographical passage. There are numerous autobiographical passages in Paradise Lost. A mention may be made of Milton's blindness. What in me is dark illumined is a direct reference to the poet's blindness. Praying to heavenly light, he writes the following touching lines: Thee I revisit safe, and fell thy sovereign bitter lamp, but thou revisited not these eyes that roll in vain. To find thy piercing ray and find no dawn, so thick a drop Syrian hath quenched their orb, or dim suffusion belled. Again, in following lines, the poet's blindness is referred to. Thus, with the year, seasons return, but not to me returns day, or the sweet approaches of eve or morn, or sight of vernal bloom or summer's rose. So much the rather thou, celestial light, irradiate their plant eyes, all mist from thence purge and dispense, that I may see and tell of things invisible to mortal sight. Milton had fallen on evil days after restoration. In Book 3rd of Paradise Lost, Milton refers to this peril of life. Though fallen on evil days, though fallen and evil tongues, in darkness and with danger compassed, drowned, and solitude, yet not alone, while thou visits my slumbers nightly, or when morn purples the east, still governs thou my song. Urania and fit audience find though few. Milton's abhorrence of a life of indulgence is seen in the following lines from Book 1st of Paradise Lost. In court and places he also reigned, and in luxurious cities where the noise or riot ascend above their loftiest tower, and injury, outrage, and when night awakens the streets, then wander forth the sons of Belial, flown with insolence and wine. Milton had a natural indignation against women. His feelings find expression in the following lines from Book First. In Sion also not unsung, where stood her temple on the offensive mountain built by that exorious kings, whose heart, though large, beguiled by fair idolatresses, but the most passionate outburst against womankind occurs in Book 10th. Oh, why did God, Creator, wise, that pupilled highest heaven with spirits masculine, create at last this novelty on earth? This fierce defect of nature not fill the world at once with men as angels without feminine, or find some other ways to generate mankind, having an impact of his personality. Thus, it is quite evident that we cannot separate Milton the poet from Milton's the man. The impact of his colossal personality is clearly felt upon his work. In this connection, the views of Tilliard may be noted. You cannot ignore him any more than you can ignore Alexander the Great or Cromwell or Napoleon. He is too extraordinary a person to shut out from our notice, and he is perhaps the only man of this type who has translated this mental urge into literature and not into action. Note also see introduction. Milton's self-revelation in Paradise Lost, subheading Puritan Spirit. Next question, write a note on characters of Satan. Answer: Satan is the best drawn of Milton's character. Addison calls him the most exalted and most depraved being in Paradise Lost. He is a fallen archangel who retains his grandeur and magnificence, his intellectual vigor and emotional intensity even in his fall and depravity are of such an exalted order that even his adversaries admire him. He is evil incarnate, but evil so great and magnificent that far from hating him, still less deriding him, we marvel at him, we praise and admire him. He is great in his fall, strong in his weakness, honorable in his dishonor, bold and indomitable in his misadventure, vanquished but refusing to admit his defeat. Paradise Lost will lose much of its vigor and vitality, its grandeur and magnificence without Satan. So Lascelles Abercrombie says it is surely the simple fact that Paradise Lost exists only for one figure, that is Satan, just as the Iliad exists for Achilles and the Odyssey for Odysseus. It is in the figure of Satan that the imperishable significance of Paradise Lost is contrasted. His vast, unyielding agony symbolizes the profound antimony of modern consciousness. A great power. Heading है The key of Satan's character is strength and courage. He possesses an indomitable spirit, a courage not be cowed down even by the Almighty Himself. He is the greatest power that has been overthrown, yet retaining a strongest will to resist or to endure. He is baffled, not confounded. He stands like a tower, as when heaven's fire hath scorched the forest oaks or mountain's pines. He is still surrounded with the host of revealed angels, armed barriers who regard him as their sovereign leader. And with whose fate he sympathizes as he views them all around as far as the eye can reach, though he keeps aloof from them in his own mind and holds supreme counsel only with his own heart and mind. Though he is an outcast from heaven, hell trembles beneath his feet, sin and death are at his heels, and mankind is his easy prey. Self-exaltation is the motive of all Satan's conduct. Even in defeat he never thinks of submission. What though the field be lost, and is not lost the unconquerable will and study of revenge, immortal hate, and courage never to submit or yield, and what is else not to overcome. Paradise Lost, first 105 to 109 lines. Heading his sense of injured merit. Tilliard says that the sky of Saturn are high disdain and sense of injured merit, to which he himself admits in the first book of the poem. C.S. Lewis holds a similar view. He says that Saturn, though himself impaired, he thought so because Messias had been pronounced head of the angel. This unjust and ill-founded sense of wrong done to him made him rise in arms against the Almighty. In this respect, Satan stood self-abused, a being superior to him in kind, by whom he himself had been created, a being far above him in the natural hierarchy, had been preferred to him in honor by an authority whose right to do so was not disputable. No one had in fact done anything so certain. He was not hungry, nor overtasked, nor removed from his place, nor shunned, nor hated. He only thought himself impaired. In the midst of the world of light and love of song and feast and dance, he could find nothing to think of more interesting than his own prestige. And his prestige, it must be noted, had and could have no other grounds than those which he refused to admit, for the superior prestige of Messiah. This becomes a kind of psychological and emotional obsession with him, and he suffers and falls on account of this. Abdiel draws the attention of Satan to his mistaken sense of prestige and freedom before the latter is cast into hell. Apostate still thou rest nor and wild bite find offering from the path of truth removed unjustly through depravest it with the name of servitude to serve whom God ordains of nature. God and nature had the same when he who rules is worthiest and excels than whom he governs. This is servitude to serve unwise or him who hath rebelled against his worthier as thine now serve. Paradise Lost second 172 to 180 lines. Heading है His Majestic Pride. Satan is haughty, vain and proud to the highest degree. He testifies to the saying that even ills and demerits stung to the highest degree becomes admirable and lovable. All his actions and words are tuned to the same key. He cannot forget ever for once that before his fall he belonged to the highest order in the hierarchy of angels. When Jephon discovers him sitting in the shape of a toad by the side of Eve and asks him who is he proudly says, "Know ye not then, know ye not me, ye knew me once, no made for you there sitting where ye durst not soar, not to know me, argues yourselves unknown, the lowest of your throng." Heading an embodiment of evil. Satan has been represented by Milton as an embodiment of evil, in spite of various appreciable traits like ambition, courage and steadfast will in the character of Satan. Milton stresses gradual deterioration of Satan's character. Satan makes evil his chief motive in life. To do aught good never will be our task, but ever to do ill our sole delight. As being contrary to this high will whom we resist, study of revenge becomes the sole purpose of his life. Since he cannot wage open war with God, he seeks to undo and reverse the good that God will by indirect means. He does not feel repentant for his fall, revolt his pride, forbid repentance. He knows that he cannot long remain submissive if he repent and submit to God. Therefore, he embraces evils. So farewell hope, and with hope farewell fear, farewell remorse. All good to me is lost. Evil, be thou my good, be by thee at least divided empire with heaven's king. First I hold. Heading a Milton's identification. Some critics have charged Milton of identifying himself unconsciously with Satan. Black said that Milton was the devil's party without knowing it. It is alleged that in Satan's pride and rebellious temperament, Milton found his own mind and spirit. Other critics have suggested that in Satan, Milton has unconsciously created the very figure of Puritanism, and thus he identified the cause to which he had devoted the best years of his life. with the devil. There is no doubt that Satan is a part of Milton's own heroic energy. Most powerfully shown, the traditional motive of Satan's fall was pride, which was also the ruling passion in Milton's own soul. So while he was describing Satan's pride, his imagination was fired, and consequently the character of Satan is drawn with a power unique in literature. In fact, Milton pours out his own feeling, and therefore the character of Satan as he presents it cannot but inspire feeling of sympathy and admiration. Satan's first speeches are pure Miltonic lyricism because Milton's pride had also known defeat at Satan's head. What matters failure and the triumph of the enemy if one is resolved not to submit? Here we have the rage and defiance which Milton himself felt when he saw the restoration. Since through experience of this great event in arms not worse in foresight much advanced, we may with more successful hope resolve the wage by force or guile eternal bar in irreconcilable of to our grand foe who know triumph, and in the excess of joy soul ringing holds the tyranny of heaven. Paradise Lost, first 118 lines to 124. It is clear that Satan is not only a part of Milton's character, he is also a part of Milton's mind. This is the reason that Satan is Milton's greatest creation and the opening books where he is the chief figure far surpass in interest all that follows. There is nothing greater in poetry than these tremendous scenes. Satan and Beelzebub are in converse in hell while the fallen angels lie scattered around. Satan rallying his host when comes perhaps the most sublime stroke in the poem. He now prepared to speak there at their doubled rank. They bent from wing to wing and half enclosed him round. With all his peers' attention held them mute. Thrice he essayed, and thrice, in spite of scorn, tears such as angels' beef burst forth. At last words interwove with sigh found out this way. Here Milton is obviously far from sympathizing with Satan. In fact, he arranges him also whenever the occasions so demand. He does not let him forget that he is himself responsible for his fall and consequent expulsion from heaven, having a grand tragic figure. Thus Satan in one of the most tragic figures, and withal one of the most sublime figures in world literature. He is fallen archangel, the fiend or the devil, yet we are moved to human sympathy with him. Milton has imparted to his devils human sentiments and feelings. Tilliard says Milton could hardly do other than he did in making Satan a tragic and hence a manly human figure, and in giving his followers very human characteristics. His hell, unlike Dante's, had no human inhabitant to make it interesting. Milton was forced in compensation to humanize his devils rather than to make them represent essential evil. On the other extreme Saturn seeks to affect the divine pattern of Trinity. Saturn, sin and death are close parody of the divine Trinity. Saturn corresponds to the Father. He begets a daughter, sin, and proceeding from them both, there is the third member of the infernal Trinity, death. Thanks. Best of luck.